Hello and welcome to Your Schools. I'm your host, Lynn Turner Fitzgerald. Joining me is School Superintendent Dr. Erwin Garcia. Thank you for being here. I'm getting him between meetings, so we're going to have to step it up a little bit. Thank you. I know it's tough to get a half hour out of your day. You know, some people believe you don't sleep.
I actually sleep pretty well.
Do you?
I do.
Good.
I do.
I'm glad to hear
that. It doesn't matter how the day goes, I can sleep well.
Awesome.
Every day.
Okay. Well, there are a number of things I wanted to visit with you about today, and with what's going on in the world, with the administration and all that, things change day to day. So by the time this airs, this could be different. I just want to make that clear. But I'm wondering about the Department of Education. There's been a lot of activity, disruption with the department. And how does that impact School District 2?
Yeah. So the level of speculation regarding the Department of Education brings a lot of anxiety to our district and personnel because we receive funding from the federal government to the tune of about $7 million
Wow.
out of Title I, Title II, Title III, Title IV, and then we receive funding for special education, which is critical. We understand the notion that we have to be better stewards of the financial being of our nation. I understand that, yes, there should be ways for the government to save money, to utilize funding better. But my concern is that unintended consequences. I hope that there's no intentionality to destroy education. I don't think that that's the case. But the unintended consequences of closing the Department of Education, and if that were to go to the states, how would that play out? And because we have multiple programs that are supporting the most vulnerable children in our community. So we read, we follow the news, we're looking for updates, but at this time, we don't have clarity of what those next steps are.
Well, now, on a statewide level, that would be the Office of Public Instruction. Would things from the Department of Education flow through them to the local districts, or is it direct?
I don't know how the federal government will manage and reappropriate those federal funds to the state. I don't know.
Right.
We have uncertainty. Actually, I don't know if it's actually going to happen because my understanding is that there's potential lawsuits and potential halts that could impede the transition of those funds going to the states, or even the closure of the Department of Ed might fall to the cracks. So it's hard really to predict, but we know that we don't want to create disruption. That's the only thing. Whether this the federal government or the state's managing this, all we want to be able is to serve our kids, that we don't have to withhold any type of services for students in special education or students in poverty. We don't want to withhold those services. Or our Indian education funding, we need those resources, and whatever way that the federal government can save, can optimize, can be better, great. That's the intended purpose, but I caution on the unintended consequences of these actions.
Okay. Well, like I say, this changes hour by hour. So by the time this airs, it could be a whole different story. But I do want to ask you also about the diversity, equity, and inclusion stance that has been taken by this administration. I know the university system in Montana received notification to respond. District 2?
I want to say they went through their systems to identify where any type of DEI policy that they had in place. When it comes to District 2, we never went to DEI. We were looking at the policies. We were doing our internal review, our own policies. We don't have any DEI policies within our system.
Oh.
So we don't have necessarily to go back and clean up. Or the only things that we had to adjust to was Title 9. But because there was an injunction to the 2024 Joe Biden era Title IX by a judge in Louisiana that Montana joined that suit, and actually that was granted. So we actually were put back in 2020 Trump era Title IX regulations. So we were looking into changing our policies, but of course Title IX now goes back to the 2020 era.
And that's for
policies.
women's athletics?
The Title IX has to do with women athletics. It has to do with bullying, discrimination, harassment. Yeah. It's connected to that. But we never, as a system, we never were catching up fast enough to change our policies. And we don't have, again, DEI policies within our system.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Coming up next year, next school year, that is, you have a new schedule coming out, right?
Yeah.
So is it shorter weeks, shorter days?
So
These are matrix that are kind of confusing.
Right. So we had a problem, and we had a problem to solve.
Yeah.
The problem was that we weren't meeting accreditation standards. Accreditation standards due to the minutes, the hours of instruction. So the state has set the hours of instruction, 1,080 hours of instruction per year.
Okay.
That's for grades 4 through 12.
Okay.
Well, except for seniors. Seniors have actually less hours. And K through 3rd, the hours, I can't remember, but it's 750 something hours per year. So we weren't meeting accreditation hours. And there's a lot of reasons why not. And the OPI has now enforced and gone back to, we want to know minute by minute your time of instruction. And of course, our reporting system changed. It went from a document that you said, yes, we're meeting these hours, and we submit, to a very robust, to the point, very detailed representation of those hours. And we were short. We're not going to meet accreditation. We had to make some changes this year, actually, to make that happen, and changes that are not the best changes, like a structured recess for 4th and 5th graders. We don't want to have a structured recess. I think recess is good.
A structured recess?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So structure. So instead of kids going out to play and free, that's the best scenario for kids. We had to give lessons while we were giving them recess, so we can count those minutes.
Can you still call it recess?
Yeah, exactly, right? So no, not the best condition. So we had to embed more time during instructional day.
Okay.
So what we're doing is we're adding 10 minutes before, 10 minutes after. So if your school was starting at 8:20, you will start at 8:10. Okay. And if you were dismissed at 3, you're dismissed at 3:10.
Okay.
So 10 minutes before, 10 minutes after. So we figured that wasn't such a big disruption. Yeah. And that would allow us to have more time for instruction, for a reading block, math block, hopefully more time for recess, more time for lunch. Sometimes, kids go to the cafeteria and, you give them 20, 25 minutes to eat, and they talk for 75% of the time. Then they don't eat, right? And sometimes parents feel that we're not giving their kids enough time to eat. Well, we should have plenty of time to eat, at least 20, 25 minutes to eat. So we're giving a little bit more flexibility. We're able to add more minutes to instruction. And when we calculated the number of minutes and hours that will give us, actually we can cut 7 days out of the calendar.
Okay.
And still be better off when it comes to minutes or hours of instruction. So we took 7 days, and 2 of those days will turn into instructional planning days. So at the beginning of the year, we're going to give more professional development for our teachers, and then 5 less contact days for students.
Contact day?
Yeah, meaning we're moving from 180 days of instruction of contact with students to 173
So
contact days.
students will not be in the classroom.
7 days.
Wow. You're going to wrap it around a special time of year, or do you know?
So what we did is our goal is to start first day of September, first instructional day of September, and end by Memorial Weekend.
Oh, I see.
So what we did, we compressed the calendar with more time during the day, so we can have more hours of instruction supporting our accreditation standards, our blocks of instruction, and be able to finish the year earlier. And I mean, the feedback we've received has been very positive.
Good.
I mean, I met with the parent advisory committee. We surveyed the union surveyed their teachers, and we've received positive feedback.
Well, that's good. All right. So school will begin September 1?
September 1st, I don't know exactly because, if September 1st is a Sunday,
No.
of course it's going to be the next day, but the first Monday of the month of September.
Okay.
And then finishing by, like we did in the past, by Memorial Day.
By Memorial Day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Our goal is to do a 3-year calendar, actually. That was our proposal. But the board, I think, was cautioned. They wanted to allow the community to kind of live that calendar before they would approve the next one. So I think that was a wise decision. But our goal is to present, the calendar committee is going to get together this very soon to kind of increase the feedback we can give the community, because this is the thing. In the past, we gave them a survey to say you have option 1 or option 2. Well, that's not getting their feedback. That's really giving them a vote. And then if you don't get the vote for the one that you voted for, then you feel like betrayed. You feel betrayed. So what we now want is start early getting input from the community. Getting input. What are the things that you value? Would you like to have a 2-week period during the winter time? Would you like a full week of Thanksgiving? Would you like a full week of spring break? Hear their voices, and with that in mind, come back to the calendar committee to make a recommendation. But we still have to have the time, those 20 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
We can't go back
No.
because we need that time for the instruction.
Yeah. Well, how can a parent maybe share their view with you?
So we're going to open a survey. So when I've done surveys generated by me and my team, last time we surveyed the community, we got about 3,000
Really?
votes and
Wow.
opinions. And so I think if we can get a sample of about 3,000 people and open it up, like media have been very gracious with us to give us time to share our surveys so people can connect using their QR codes. And so we want to get that feedback so we can inform how we do calendars moving forward.
And this is for parents only?
Parents and community in general.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to have a child
No.
in the district. Okay.
Yeah. Anyone in our community can. Our goal is to launch that survey, I would say probably September, October, so we can have plenty of time. And then the committee starts meeting, I would say probably the first week of November.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. We'll look for that. How are the charter schools doing?
They're doing great. Actually, we graduated the first student out of the Opportunity School,
Really?
a child that could have dropped out, a child that was missing very few credits and was kind of feeling that perhaps he didn't want to finish high school, but went to the Opportunity School, got motivated. The child is pretty bright, and he completed his credit. He graduated a couple of weeks ago, so we're very excited. That's at the Opportunity School. We have 80 students. Most likely next year we're going to have about 120. The Early College High School has about 60 students, and our goal is to increase that number to about 120, between 80 to 120. Right now, even before we open the application process, we had 20 students that had already signaled that they wanted to go to the Early College High School, which is great because, a child can graduate with a high school diploma and an associate's degree on the same day.
I know.
And MSUB and Rocky has been great partners.
Good.
So we're very excited to continue our partnership with them.
Well, now, how are students making the decisions about maybe going to the opportunity school or going to the early college school? Are they sitting down with counselors at the school? Is this being explained to them and
Yes.
parents?
So we're having an entire campaign led by Dr. Gerald Hain. So pretty much what she's doing, she's going to the nearby districts. So she goes to Blue Creek, she goes to Elder Grove, and because those kids are coming from the middle schools, and what she's doing is really educating them on their pathways for the future. And we are also having open houses at the high schools. So when the middle schoolers are going to the high schools, we're also going to the middle schools, open houses, and talking to the 8th graders. So we're having that direct connection to those students, and we're sending information home. That information is available on our website as well.
Okay.
So if people have questions about those opportunities. And I forgot to mention that we have a third charter school, which is the Multilingual Academy. You know, we have lots of families in our community that adopt children from other parts of the world, you know, and from Africa, from Europe, and sometimes those kids come, you know, they're middle schoolers, high schoolers, they don't speak the language.
Right.
It would be very difficult for those kids to survive and thrive if they can't speak the language.
Right.
So the Multilingual Academy has been very, very helpful. We have about 50 students in middle and high school. Those teachers are phenomenal. The supports that we're giving those kids, they're pretty fun to see and to see them interact with the language. They're also having the opportunity to go to the high schools. So we have the schedule works in a way that they are taught for most of the day here at the Lincoln Center, but then they go to the high school for the last period of the day so they can be immersed.
So they still have that high school experience.
Yes.
And friends and things
And these
like
programs
that.
should be a short-term program. Should be where you get the tools that you need so you can be successful in the
I was
middle
going to
school and
ask
high
you,
school.
how long do they spend there?
Right.
Few
So
months?
this year, because depending on the language proficiency of the child, so far, some of the students have spent the entire year so far.
Okay.
But our goal is to allow them to go part-time next year. So half the time here, half the time there, as they're getting high school credit. But our goal really is for those kids to be fully immersed within the middle and the high schools.
Is there anything offered during the summer months to assist with the language barrier?
That's a great question. Actually, I don't have a plan for that.
Okay.
Thank you for that question.
Sure.
I will go back to my team and think about that. That's honestly, I haven't even thought about that. I appreciate the question.
Now, wasn't there also an academy for little ones coming out?
Yes, the Kinder Ready program.
Yes.
We started the Kinder Ready program at Bench, McKinley, and Orchard with 90 students.
Oh.
Those teachers are phenomenal. I mean, I've been to those classrooms. Those 4-year-olds are fun. Those teachers are probably some of the best kinder teachers that are teaching pre-K kids.
Yeah.
Our goal is to increase the number of students attending, because we're serving kids in poverty, and that's where the gaps are. If you think about academic achievement, kids in poverty are struggling the most, and we want to start early. But we're also opening it up for families. Like we have space and you're a community member and you want your child to start getting instruction early, we're open for that.
Bring it on. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
Very good. Tell me about the graduate profile. I know nothing about this.
So when you think about the graduate profile, and I'm sorry I have to use the analogy of the product.
Okay.
Of course, kids are not products, right?
No.
Kids are not, objects. But just to describe, so when you think about those big companies, they have their brand. So, FedEx, they work around being fast, being efficient. That's their product, right? There's companies that their product is customer service, or their product is a drink, right? Pop. And you know that every time you go to drink that pop, it tastes the same. There's a level of consistency and predictability. because all of the systems around support that product. So we need to have a product. And what is the poster child of Billings Public Schools? Who is that child? So for that, we develop a graduate profile. This graduate profile is the result of a full year of work with the community led by Dr. Chris Oshelsky and other members of the team. They went out to the community, met with parents, met with students, met with all the stakeholders, teachers and principals, and what are the characteristics that we want to see in that child? Whether they're poor, whether they're rich, whether they're white, Native American, from the Heights, on the West, on the South, with parents that are middle class or upper class, and the kid that has their parents incarcerated, or kids in poverty, that we can aspire for those characteristics to be embedded, taught, explained, modeled. So the characteristics are, we want kids to be critical thinkers, right? And it's great to be a critical thinker because you can, when the teacher facilitates the lesson, now the teacher is thinking about, well, let's tweak this a little bit. This story that we are reading together, what would happen if? How would the character change if this event would have happened? And just critical thinking, the ability to analyze, evaluate, synthesize information, all of those high level skills can be modeled. So we need kids to be critical thinkers, but we need more than that, because intelligence is a good thing, but it's not everything, right? We need kids to be academic ready. So you can be a critical thinker, but if you are not taught with standards and you can demonstrate proficiency, mastery of those content areas, then we're not really serving you well. But we also need you to be a good human. You have to have empathy. You have to understand that your actions impact the lives of others, right?
How do you teach that?
Oh, isn't that something, huh? So we have to embed programs. So we're partnering with various organizations to allow us to build systems of support model for the district. We're calling it a culture of care. So we applied for a grant. We won the grant. It's $1 million going back to the district. We're supporting, our focus will be our middle school students because that has been the gap. But I think the intentionality behind not only the programs that we can bring or the funding that we can bring is really making us more aware as educators that empathy matters. That instead of, if I suspend you because you called somebody a derogative name, your actions are bullying someone or you're being discriminatory, the consequences that we have on the books is you'll get suspended, or you'll get in-school suspension, or we'll talk to your parent, or you lose recess, whatever the case it is.
Right.
But how much is that changing that behavior? So our approach is, with the culture of care, is for peer mediation, is for educating you so you can understand what your actions, your words, the impact that that's causing.
So you're going to take on social media.
Tell me more.
No, you tell me more.
On social media, meaning?
Social media is a huge factor in kids' lives.
Oh, yeah.
And a huge influence in their lives.
That's
and
why
I think
we
leads to a great deal of behavior.
And we see the relationship once we cut cell phones from the system. You know, elementary and middle school, they can't have cell phones on themselves. When the kids in high school go to the classroom, they have to deposit their cell phone. So it's a ban, depends on where you are. But
was there a pushback on that?
Very few parents push back.
Okay.
And they had actually some real reasons.
Okay.
My child needs medicine, he's tracking.
Well, there are exceptions.
So, hey, we will accommodate
Sure.
you, But we have seen a decrease in the number of fights. We have seen a decrease in the number of
Really?
behaviors.
Yes,
Because
good.
a lot of the behaviors that we saw were kids on their cell phones doing mean things to others. So when I think about those characteristics of the graduate profile, we're appealing to the minds of kids, being smart, being academic ready, but we're also appealing to their hearts. You have to be a better human. You have to be resilient. That's the fourth characteristic. But you also have to be a good citizen. What you do impact us all. So if that's what we want and we aspire, our goal now is to unpack that. So how is that going to look like in kindergarten? How is that going to look in the South, on the West End, on the Heights area, or wherever you are, that we have a consistent approach to support you becoming that graduate. But we need partners, and the best partners are parents. We need parents to be our partners, and we need our community to really support that graduate profile.
We're almost out of time, so this is a work in progress.
No, the board already approved it
on
the last board meeting, so we have a final product, and we are now starting the professional development and packing that for teachers, for students, for parents, we're now in the process of educating our community around the graduate profile.
All right. Boy, that sounds interesting.
Right.
Let's talk about this at another time when you have some results.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Well, thank you. Thanks for being here, Dr.
Thank you, Lee, for the invitation.
And thank you for joining us on Your Schools. We'll see you next time.